Hello, Frog fans. Welcome to Post Game Beers Podcast. We are the Lepton Drinking Club. We're going to be drinking a lot tonight for a variety of reasons. You can find us at Lepton Beers on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Nobody wants to pay attention to our socials right now, but in the future, when things change, you may want to visit and hang out. I'm your host tonight, Kyle Malloy at YellMK on Twitter, joined by our producer, Crazy Ray Cartwright, as well as the Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero. We've also got the uninformed frog, Garrett Evans. Unfortunately, JD is out tonight. He is still passed out from the game-winning left-handed buzzer beater by Kyrie Irving. He saw it in person, and he's still celebrating. I think he might be in jail still. I can't remember if he got out yet, but he's there. Anyway, when you're celebrating a game-winning shot, or you're bemoaning just the worst weekend in sports for your favorite team ever, Ray, where do you turn to grab a nice beverage?
I go, when things are going bad, I go to Long Drink, the black can, extra strong, 8.5%.
We've got the Finnish Legend, the Long Drink. I've got one of the citrus low-cal in my hand right now. Always delicious, always refreshing. Yeah, and when you're down bad, you're going with the black can because it's a higher alcohol content. When you're having a good time, you're going with this, but unfortunately, I didn't have any blacks in my fridge today. So either way, appreciate Long Drink for being a sponsor. Fellas, gonna be honest, I was not looking forward to the show. I think we can turn it around. We can talk about some, well, I don't even want to say plural positives, maybe a positive of the weekend.
Positives.
But I do think it's important for us to share our feelings with each other, learn from our experiences being in hell, and figure out what in the world is going on with Frogball USA. What do you think?
You know, MK, I feel like we did this kind of pod a lot last year through that first half of the year. It was a little more sporadic. It would be a really awful week followed by a good week followed by an awful week, and so you didn't know the temperature to take on this team. This time it's been 2 weekends of really bad baseball, awful, disgusting baseball that has been played.
Garrett, where are you at, man?
Well, if you're gonna have to sit there and get kicked in the nuts, you'd rather sit there and get kicked in the nuts with your friends. So
That's right, man.
Let's all just sit here and get kicked in the nuts together a little bit for this podcast, because
you're gonna kick him in the nuts? No, kick me in the nuts too.
It wasn't fun. I had a weird situation this weekend. I had a lot of stuff going on, but I was able to really sit down and soak in Friday. And we'll get to our breakdowns, but Saturday was a little more sporadic, and Sunday was the same as far as my viewership goes. So I don't feel nearly as bad. I wasn't UMK. I wasn't out at Lupton seeing every single pitch thrown. But my gosh, man, wasn't fun. Martin, how are you feeling, sir?
I mean, like you said, Garrett, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty when we do the game recaps, but can anybody tell me what our record was on March 19th after the Oklahoma series last year?
After the Oklahoma series?
Yeah.
I think it had to be around 500 because they had bad weekends against Florida State.
No, that's right.
I think they took 2 or 3 against San Diego, but that was a close series.
Probably just about as many errors.
Did they play Louisville last year away?
No.
Or was that 2 years ago?
Houston, we played Louisville.
In Houston, yeah. Did we sweep that weekend down there?
I think we lost to Louisville.
I mean, so was Oklahoma State the second conference series last year?
So last year, Kansas was the second and Oklahoma was the first.
Okay. I know for a fact that it wasn't as bad of a start to conference play because then they went to Oklahoma State, and didn't they win 2 out of 3 there? Or no, sorry, at home?
So I They started with Oklahoma. They definitely lost that series. It's
lost the
whatever
series.
about this Oklahoma team has our number. I think it's now 5 series in a row that we've lost to them.
That's pretty
series
wild,
in a
right?
row.
Are-
Kansas we swept last year, and then we went up to or Oklahoma State came here. No, Oklahoma State was in April.
Well, all of that was after March 19th.
oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
The only series that we played was Oklahoma. We played an extra out of conference. Our record was 10-9.
Around 500.
Hey, 15-5. I feel great now.
Hey,
the vibes
everything-
totally changed.
Yeah. Rainbows and butterflies.
Well, thanks guys for joining us tonight. We'll
Sun
see y'all
see you-
later.
we'll see you
shining
Park
on
in the
my
Park.
head.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
Yeah.
another episode of Post Game Beers.
But that is fun to bring that up, Martin. I mean, all the gloom and doom. I mean, we still started the year with 13 wins in a row. So, I mean, we can ride the horse pretty quickly here, but
so to speak.
so to speak,
From the
naturally.
horse.
See, it wasn't even intended. That's how good at podcasting I am tonight, guys.
But I'll turn it to a negative. So, has
Thank
TCU ever started this poorly in Big 12 conference play?
No, and I'll tell you
That's-
why. It's because they had
Gonna be a no.
very few times did they lose that opening series in conference play.
The answer is one time in 2013, their first year in the Big 12. Can you name the two teams they started off with?
Texas and Oklahoma.
Kansas and Oklahoma.
Oh no!
They finished
Oh,
the season.
no.
They finished the season 29-28, 500 in conference play. Did not make the postseason. So again, means absolutely garbage to, for this current team. I just found that interesting because I was like,
was it really Kansas and Oklahoma? Like
it
series
was
one, series
in
two?
that order too. Yeah.
Yeah. How can you not be romantic about baseball, guys?
Oh, man, we're not going to Omaha this year, are we?
I thought for sure, I was like, okay, we've never started 1-5 ever, right? And then I found out that it was just over 10 years ago, our first year in the Big 12. But anyway,
So what you're saying is we're going to miss Omaha this year and then go on a run of 4 straight trips to Omaha.
that's exactly what I was turning it into. It was a positive of how awesome we're going to be next year. We can start on a positive, and that'll be Tuesday night. Are you ready for games?
Yeah.
Ready?
So after a rough series away in Lawrence, Frogs jumped over all the way across the Metroplex to Dallas to take on the 20th ranked DBU Patriots. I feel like it's becoming the best non-conference rivalry, and I purposely left out A&M because they refused to schedule us. But I mean, in terms of just a team that is kind of a thorn in our side, but it also feels good when you win. I feel like DBU is up there. So again, rough weekend. They really had zero time to waste to kind of jump back into competitive play. But it was the Patriots on Tuesday who really made the majority of mistakes on the night. In the third inning, Maxwell and Byrne had a couple hits, and they took the lead 4-1 at that point. In the sixth, there was a pass ball, a scoring error after that. Silva scored. Chase Brunson doubled. And so they were up at this point 6-2. And then there were more Patriot errors after that in the eighth, or another error in the eighth inning. They were up 9-2, feeling pretty good. DBU did make a push in the eighth and ninth, got a couple runs in both of those innings to come back, but it wasn't enough. So the Patriots lose to the Frogs 6-9. I guess my question for y'all is, did we learn anything about TCU on Tuesday night?
I think we did. I think we learned that. Well, maybe you combine this with a later game in the weekend. But I think you learned that Lewis could definitely be a starter. I mean, he played outstanding. Had 7 Ks against DBU. He was probably my brightest spot for the whole week. TBH.
Yeah, how could you not love what Lewis did? Comes in for Ben Hampton. I thought it was an excellent time to bring in Lewis because Ben, being a soft tosser that he is, DBU was starting to put some barrels on balls the second time through the lineup, and then Lewis came in and just completely shut that down, extinguished that fire, and then some.
Final line for
I don't
Lewis.
think-
Go ahead, Martin.
I don't think I really learned anything. I mean, we already knew Lewis was good, and our pitching on Tuesdays has actually been probably one of the best days that we pitched. Somehow, I was kind of worried about the offense more than anything going into it, and I feel like the offense it was more DBU letting us score or making mistakes for us to score than us actually hitting the ball well. I was surprised we didn't hit any home runs in that tiny little ballpark that they got. They hit a couple on us. Another thing that we're worried about is the late end of the bullpen, and they kind of let DBU back into the game late. So I'm not really sure. I think I learned more about DBU. We're not their Super Bowl anymore. It looks like they're more worried about winning the Conference USA or something than saving a guy for the midweek rotation to face against us. It doesn't look like they need that bump in the RPI anymore. It looks like we might need it this year more than they do.
We will talk about kind of the power or lack thereof, I guess, on the team this year. That was definitely a concern in our group chat about, yes, Sam Myers hit a home run against Kansas, but what are we doing? Where's the long ball?
Non-existent.
Yeah, I think it was weird to be up 9-2 in the 8th inning and then feel a little nervous. That was a strange feeling, right? Martin, you mentioned it. After Lewis pitched masterfully for 3 2/3, having a couple guys come in that just didn't seem to lock it down, and you shouldn't feel nervous up 7 runs. With 6 outs to go, so little concerning. But at that point, I thought that was an awesome win. Top 25 win. I think it's going to be a good win at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Fun to see to face River. That was a fun moment.
That's right.
Yeah, I forgot he came in. Yeah, exactly.
We were calling for that in the Discord, and they delivered. That was the thing. I didn't actually write this down, but I felt like they were just burning through pitchers. I don't know if they had 7 maybe on the night. It just felt
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers on the evening we matched them 6 for 6.
Yeah. I don't remember us 6, but maybe we just at the end there. Anyway,
I had a couple of guys where it'd be like a third of an inning, 2/3 of an inning kind of thing.
Good kind of bounce back after a tough weekend. I felt much more confident, right? Hosting Oklahoma, first home series. Unfortunately, that was a poor feeling. I'm glad I didn't put my money where my mouth was on that one.
Yeah, MK, how could you not feel confident, right?
Yeah.
You beat DBU, top 20 team in the country. Looks like the wheels are back kind of on track after a disappointing weekend in Lawrence. You look at DBU's schedule, they've beaten Oklahoma State. They pounded them. It was like 14-5. They've beaten Oklahoma this year. And so now we're facing Oklahoma. We just beat DBU. How could you're feeling vibes are good rolling into Friday.
Friday comes and unfortunately was unsuccessful. I'll start with a positive. Peyton Tolley, and we'll talk about Peyton a little bit later on. He had his longest out in the year. That was really cool to see. He went 6 innings total. He allowed 2 runs on 3 hits, including 10 strikeouts, double-digit strikeouts, and only 1 walk. He had an excellent night. When he exited the game in the 7th inning, TCU was up 3-2. And in relief, our old reliable, well, for the most part this year, we brought in Zach Coyer and kind of expecting him to continue the positive momentum. But that's where things kind of went off the rails. The Sooners hit 3 singles. That tied the game 3-3. And so they pull Coyer, bring in Ben Abelt. And unfortunately, the next few batters went walk, fielder's choice, which scored a run, single. And at that point, it was 6-3. And we thought, all right, looks like we need another late inning comeback for the Cardiac Frogs. But TCU in the last, was it 3 innings, would only have 3 more runners total. Didn't score again, and they lose 7-3. I don't know where we want to go with this outside of the obvious, right? Tough to lose when you have a what do you call it? A quality start, from Toley, and to really see kind of another blown save, which I feel like we've mentioned a couple times. I don't know what it is about, Ben and Zach. They're really up and down where they look dominant one night and then the other night. I don't know if it's not enough rest or what, but they really are struggling.
Martin, what you got?
Well, I was there, and as you can see, we only scored 3 runs, and that was not going to cut it. Toley was amazing. I was really surprised once he went out there for the 6th inning, and he, just got through it. But he really battled up there. It wasn't like, his first 3 innings where he's striking everybody out, but he's getting outs and he's getting, he's given depth or he's given length. And so
can I talk about that real quick? I had some friends in town.
Yeah.
And I said in the 4th inning, I said, watch out. It's the 2nd time through the order.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And they scored 2. And I thought, man, it happens every time. But he worked through it. He only gave up 2.
Right.
And then he came back in the 5th and 6th and looked good. And I thought that was a positive that he, like you said, pushed through.
Yeah, that's the thing, is not being bothered. Sure, you might give up some runs or whatever, but continue to get outs. Because even though he gave up those 2 runs, I think we still had the lead. And then, you bring in Collier, you bring in Abel. You needed them to be perfect, like they've shown they can do at times. But that's a lot of pressure to put on those guys. They're not always going to be perfect. Your offense really needed to score more runs that day. And they kind of got undressed by the guy that they brought out of the bullpen.
Witherspoon.
Yeah, Kyson Witherspoon.
Dude, that dude, he came in, I believe, the bases loaded and shut us down.
Yeah. He went 5 innings, only gave up 3 hits, struck out 8. Really, the Frogs never had a chance against him. And it was kind of weird that we would see this again.
Yeah, those dang Witherspoon brothers. Dude, yeah. Offense, that was non-existent. Dude, from the innings, like you just said, he came in, struck out. And it wasn't like it was the 5th inning, I think, is when he actually came in and got us out of got him. But from the innings, 6 through 9, innings 6 through 9, 8 strikeouts, 1 hit. Dude, no walks. That's ridiculous.
You're not going to win a lot of games with 6 hits on a night. It's just not in the Big 12. It's going to be extremely rare unless you have just a dominant pitching performance. And so far, we have not seen anybody get to the 7th, 8th yet.
No, maybe. No, I don't know.
Clucker might have gone 7 at one point. I can't remember.
But no, especially whenever you say 6 hits on the night, especially when only 5 of those are through the first 5 innings, and then you just go completely bye-bye.
Yep.
The rest of the way.
I'll say this about the crowds. So I was there for every game. The crowds were great. And I think those first 13 games put an expectation in our minds that this team can really do anything, right? And I don't necessarily think they've lost it completely. It's not like they can't come back from a deficit. But none of that happened this weekend. Like, we just didn't see it at all, where they went down and then they stayed down.
And then on Friday, was that whenever Ryder made that decision to try to go to second instead of taking the out at first? Do y'all remember?
I don't have that in my notes. I'm not sure if it was that night.
Friday or Saturday.
I feel like it was Friday. It may have been Saturday.
He chose to get an out at second instead of getting the automatic out at first.
Tried to force an out at second.
Yeah. All right. Bella Fox is saying that was Saturday in the comments. Right. Thank you, Bella.
We'll mention that again here soon.
What else on Friday before we move on to Saturday?
I feel, as the point that you just made about we saw none of that. I feel like I kind of wish TCU would have stayed on the road. Not because they got swept at home, but because I feel like when they're struggling, I feel like being at home might put more pressure on these hitters.
Explain that, Martin.
Like to perform. Like they know they can't they know they're struggling. They know, the book is out on them that they're being pitched in a specific location where they're struggling, and now they gotta play in front of the home fans, and they don't think they're gonna do well, and they're like, it kind of gets in their head.
A lot of families out this weekend, a lot of parents, girlfriends. I mean, I can understand why that might add a little extra. You've seen those Instagram videos where they're like, "Hey, babe, come see my game," and then they show these
Yeah.
like low lights of the MLB stuff.
Exactly. And then, if you're on the road, you don't have to worry about, oh, who's here to see me today. You just have to play baseball.
Speaking of, the air in that game, that was Chase Brunson. Do y'all remember that play?
Yeah, there was a runner on first base. They hit a single to center field, and he misplays it, and the runner advances to third base.
What inning was that? Was that whenever Collier, when the bullpen was imploding?
Yeah, probably in the 7th inning.
Collier gave up 3 singles. It could have been, yeah, I'm not sure. We don't have a lot of context on these box scores.
You got to look at the play-by-play.
Yeah. So tough ending, especially with a quality start from Tolley, and we'll get back to that a little bit later, kind of on him and the pitching rotation in general. Frogs look to kind of wipe that away, flush it away, and get back to the game on Saturday. It was actually delayed because of weather for a few hours. Kind of fun to have a night game in Lupton on Saturday. That's pretty rare. It only happens for regional supers or in this case weather. Shout out to Olga Silva for bringing the towel to wipe down those seats because they were quite wet. No score through 3 innings. Klecker looked great in the 4th. The Frogs knocked in a run, got another one on a wild pitch. Then Oklahoma would storm back in the 5th inning, knocking in 4 runs. And at this point, Klecker was pulled for Hunter Hodges. In the 8th inning, we had singles from Basir, who was actually pinch hitting for Tolley. So we'll go back to that about him actually batting again. Singles from Anthony Silva, Carson Bowen, Chase Brunson, and the Frogs actually tied the game, which was really exciting. It was a fun inning to be there, right? Hey, they're coming back. This is the team that we know, right? And the first batter of the 9th inning, Carter Frederick, who was pinch hitting and just smacks a home run. And that just kind of deflated the energy in the stadium, thinking, oh my gosh, so we have to come back again. And unfortunately, the Sooners won 7-5, and they took the series on Saturday night in Fort Worth.
Really weird game, I thought, because it seemed like Klecker was cruising through those first 4 innings, and then you get into the 5th, and then it's one hanging slider, and then bam, it's church, it's ball game at that point.
I mean, it probably helps if you turn that double play and get out of the inning.
That's right. Dude, and they had a similar kind of scenario happen to them in Lawrence the previous weekend, right? Couldn't turn a double play, and then that extends the inning, and then next thing you know, multiple
that's on
runs.
Sunday in the first inning. They can't turn a double play, and they score 4 runs in the first inning.
I'm not prepared to really dive into the defense tonight because I didn't spend time on that. But now that I'm thinking about it, there were just a ton of plays this weekend that just really screwed the pitchers. I mean, we'll talk about the first inning on Sunday in a little bit, but man, just a bunch of times where had they turned a regular or had they chosen the out at first or turned the double play or, made the right decision, could they have gotten out with fewer runs than that were scored?
Yeah, mental errors this weekend were through the freaking roof with this squad, both defensively and offensively.
Can we talk about the weirdest moment of the game? This was Chatnier's second at bat of the game, and he walks up and gets a walk. Not a single, double, triple, home run. He walks, and immediately Skip Johnson and the Sooners come out and challenge the bat of Peyton Chatnier, and they look at it. It was, I mean, Martin, if I remember right, this was a pretty quick review. They looked at it. Kirk came out. They kind of nodded at him and they called him out almost immediately. Interesting to say the least. I don't have a lot of detail outside of the fact that it was maybe not checked, illegal at bat. So Ray, take it away.
Yeah, so being at home and watching the broadcast, Chuck Lamondola had the deets on it. Apparently, Chatnier's been going through a slump, as Frog fans will know, and he brought out a brand new bat right out of the wrapper and thought that this bat was going to get me out of my slump. Only problem is that bat had not been checked. They do bat checks before every series, and they put stickers on them. A brand new bat does not have that shiny sticker that you need to say that you are good to go.
How did Oklahoma know this?
I would imagine their catcher in a previous at bat, because I think they've been sitting on that information for a while and just waiting for it to use it if Chatnier did something.
But if he just opened it up that night, or I mean, I don't know if he opened it up that night, whatever the process is, like, it was just an odd thing to bring out. If I remember, if I recollect, like, he didn't get on base the first time, so there's no reason.
No, I think in that first at bat, it had to have been the catcher.
So you're saying, Ray, like some gamesmanship there.
Oh, for sure.
You noticed it before, and you're waiting an opportunity to pull that out of your bag of tricks.
Yeah, I think the catcher notices that, hey, that bat doesn't have a sticker on it. Whatever, goes and tells his coaches there in the dugout when they head into the dugout, and then Skip's like, okay, I'm going to sit on this and then use it to my advantage when I need to.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth with Landry, on Twitter that night, but he made a comment just that they knew. I mean, it was instantaneous.
Yeah.
As soon as he was walking, he didn't make it to first base before they, made the challenge. So
Skip comes walking out off the mug.
Yeah. So watching it live, I was wondering, how does a fifth-year guy doesn't know that he can't use that bat, right? Apparently in the SEC, they do bat checks every day, every game. In the Big 12, they do it the Thursday before the series.
interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if he was expecting it to get checked or what. So it was the same. It was the exact same bat he had been using. He just got a new one, tore the label off, and tried to use it for a game.
So he didn't use that bat on Sunday. Is that what I'm hearing? If they check it before the weekend, or would they check the bats again before the next game?
So in the Big 12, they do it just before the series. Same thing happened with Carson. He broke one of his bats, and he had to order 2 new ones and had to wait for the next Thursday before he could get them checked and approved.
Huh.
So maybe does that mean that Peyton's not going to use the new bat now since he broke his slump the very next night with the old bat?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's like, because if he didn't use his new bat and he had a couple of bats on Sunday.
Put it back in the wrapper.
Yeah, it was the old bat that he got. What was it, 2 hits on Sunday with?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and one of them was a double. So yeah, Klecker went 4 1/3. He allowed 4 runs, like we talked about, on 5 hits. He only struck out 3 batters. Not the strikeout guy. Colt Taylor, poor Colt, came in the 9th inning, gave up that home run. I don't know if it was one pitch, but it was pretty quick, and then he was swiftly removed from the game. I mean, right after that, Kirk was clearly displeased.
Yeah.
Anything else from Saturday? Go
Is
for it, Ray.
Clucker's new motto, I hang 'em, you bang 'em?
Do you have stats to back that up?
Well, his home run rate is way up this year. His line drive rate is around 25% of the balls that hitters come into contact with
Mhm.
are line drives.
I think you have to ask him.
If that's his new motto.
Yeah.
It's-
Is Saturday the day that there was like 4 pitchers that Kirk walked out to the mound like 4 times?
They used 6 pitchers total.
Okay, so top of the 9th, it's 5-5. It was after we had come back and tied it. So
He starts the inning with Zach Morris. Morris immediately
Morris, yeah,
gets rocked.
dude, that was the hardest ball I've ever seen hit out of Lupton. Was it the first pitch? I mean, I was surprised because so he finishes the inning before, right? And I was like, okay, they're trying to work Morris back. They're trying to, I guess get him some innings. But I would have thought he would have been out in the 9th inning of a tie game. But he goes out there, starts that inning, and a pinch hitter comes in and hits a 1-1, I guess, fastball. He hits it dead center, 400 and something feet. And he just cranked it.
Yeah.
And then he walks the next guy. And then Taylor comes in for Morris. He gets a single. Ayers comes in for Taylor. He bunts it. And then they intentionally walk the next guy. And then Abel comes in for Ayers. All of this is happening in the 9th inning. Why not just start the 9th inning with Abel?
Yeah, isn't that the normal logic? If you look at games as a totality, that managers usually do is if you're the home team, it's a tied game in the 9th, you start that top of the 9th with your closer, and then you go try to win it theoretically in the bottom of the 9th, with it still being tied.
So that I misspoke because I said Colt Taylor gave that home run. It was Zach Morris.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, Taylor gave up that single immediately out. Ayers comes in.
That's
like
I think that's what it was. It was like I think he had one pitch. That's what I remember. It was like he was not in there for long. It was like single, and it's like, all right, next.
He only faced one guy, single, and whoop, later, dude.
And then Saturday also was Carson Bowen. I don't know what he was thinking, trying to stretch trying to make it from first to third on a hard single to right field, and just the ball's at the third baseman, and he's not even halfway there yet.
It was a rough look. Going back to your question, Martin, do you think it had anything to do with him pitching the night before, Abelt?
I mean, they brought him in anyways.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think maybe Kirk didn't want to. And he said, hey, let's figure this out with Morris or Colt or whoever. And he's like, fine. If I have to bring in Ben, I'll bring in Ben,
Maybe it was, okay, so this is what I think happened. TCU ties the game there in that bottom of the 8th, and I think they're starting to get Ben loose, and he's not ready yet by the time that's the start of the 9th inning. That has to be it, right?
I feel like we've used that a lot, over the years in this podcast of like guys not being ready to pitch yet. Is that a good enough reason not to pitch the guy that you want in that moment?
Yeah, if he's not ready, he's not ready.
Yeah, I mean, because it kind of happened bang, bang, bang there in that 8th inning. You're not the way the offense was going. You weren't expecting 3 runs in a tied ball game there.
There was a point, and I guess this was on Sunday, not to talk about the game specifically, but we look out. I was with my daughter on Sunday, and she's like, what are they doing? And they all had those bands around their knees, and they're like, moving left and right. And it just got me thinking, like, why can't they always be ready? All of them, just in case.
I uttered that phrase that your daughter said so many times this weekend.
What are they doing?
What are they doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So defeated and disappointed, we roll into Sunday. Hoping
Salvage Sunday.
which honestly is that not the saddest shit to be have a home series and talk about Salvage Sunday? But hey, not sadder than the outcome that was to come. As mentioned, I attended all 27 innings. The festivities. How was I awarded this weekend? Another dreadful performance by the offense in the late innings. The first inning really should have provided enough foreshadowing of what was to come. And I could have left, enjoyed the gorgeous weather that we had on Sunday, played catch with my kids or something instead of whatever happened. But so the first batter hits a hard grounder to shortstop. Silva fields it cleanly, looks great, and just airmails it right over Curtis. The next batter, Sloan, is pitching and he trips during his pitch, which was just awkward as hell. And unfortunately, that was a balk. So Pettis, who's a pretty fast guy, gets to second base. Pettis then steals third. Later in the inning, this is after Pettis already scored on a grounder. There was another ball to Anthony, and there was a runner on second base. He chose to throw the ball to third base to get the to get the out, and the runner was safe. I mean, instead of getting the automatic out at first base, he would have had plenty of time. I think that would have been out number 2 at that point.
Yep.
He actually, it was a good throw. The runner just beat him. Couple, reviews. I mean, I feel like we had 3 or 4 reviews in the first inning. Every single one of them went against the Frogs, which was just so frustrating, but they were right. They were right. They weren't wrong. It was just frustrating to keep getting jacked on those. So on TV after the first inning, Ray, you mentioned that you were watching Kirk on TV. I didn't see that from my vantage point. Can you describe kind of what happened after that first inning?
Yeah, so as they're coming off the field, so I feel like this has been a pot that's been boiling up all weekend as Kirk has just looked frustrated. He's been frustrated with the umpires, frustrated with the play on the field. Mount St. Kirk gathers the lads and just he's ripping them a new one. I mean, pointing and just it looks like he's going in on them, which he should. Because, I mean, that first inning, isn't that what TCU usually does to teams? Creates havoc on the base paths, forces them into a throwing error, and then, scratches across 2 runs. That was a very TCU-like off. Now it's being shoved in their face, and it's like, hey, let's get our shit together. Now, you got out of that inning only giving up 2 runs. That was huge.
It was.
Because that could have gone south quick on you.
Yeah. And you're right about only giving up 2 runs, but in the stands, because of all the garbage that happened, everybody was like, are you kidding me? Like all that for, we missed the throw at third, there's an error at first base. It's like, come on, we're starting game 3 like this after they have already lost the first 2 games. So in the 4th inning, the Sooners started with 4 straight hits. Sloan was pulled after that, and the Frogs were down 4-0 at that point. Louis Rodriguez, our savior in purple and white, comes in, settles things down. He actually gave up a run, but it was I don't even know if it was his run because there was runners on base already. But Frogs came and they scored later on. They looked like they had some life later on in the innings. It's like, hey, this is the same thing that happened against Kansas. You had to go 2.5 games to start hitting the ball, and they came within 2. But unfortunately, the Frogs didn't score again in the later innings and lost 9-4. I mean, 15-5 on the season is, like we talked about, that's a great record. 1-5 in conference play. That is absolutely miserable. So I don't know, y'all. What's next?
Well, I can start because I think whenever things start going downhill for you in baseball, you start pressing mentally. trying to make the perfect play, make the perfect throw, make the perfect pitch. And all that does is compound your problem exponentially because you're just trying to force things that aren't there.
Yeah.
You saw that all weekend. Ryder Wilson, instead of taking the easy out to first, throws it to second. Play's not made. Anthony Silva tries to get the out at third instead of taking the easy out at first. Doesn't make the play, extends the inning. Base running errors. Carson Bowen getting thrown out by a country mile.
See, I was going to say it's both sides of the ball. Like offensively, it's a case of trying too hard as well. Like you mentioned that instance with Carson, right? You try to go first to third, he gets thrown out by a mile, but it still moves over. I think it was Brunson, and then you still have a chance to score a run. And Shat goes up there. I think he's in his head. He's trying too hard. Strikes out in his inning.
And then pitchers feel like they're out there on the mound. Well, my offense, struggling. I've got to pick them up. I've got to make these perfect pitches to shut down this offense. I'm starting to miss my spots. Leads to walks. Leads to balls that aren't where you wanted them in the strike zone, just getting smacked around. It's just snowflakes turn into avalanches. And that's what happened this weekend.
That sucks because then you have these little moments where we see the frog ball team that we expected that are sprinkled in. Like that fifth inning, whenever Logan Maxwell gets on base again and Curtis hits a 3-run home run, I was starting to feel pretty confident. It's like, oh, this is what we do. We're gonna come back. I feel the energy. And like you said, other things start compiling, pitching mistakes on the other end, and we lose another ball.
Can I tell you the energy in the stadium when he hit that home run was like sweet relief. It's like, okay, we haven't had a home run in 4 or 5 games. We're down 6-0, I think, at that point, or and hits a 3-run home run. It's like, oh, we can score. And you know what? To give credit to the fans, nobody had left at that point. Obviously, it was a beautiful day. People want to be outside, all that stuff. But I mean, it was just such a nice feeling to finally go, okay, we're still in this. And then the home run after that, like we're going to do this. We're going to do this on a Sunday. Another observation just about the teams in general. I wasn't, we're on our side, sitting behind the bench or next to the TCU bench. So I don't get a lot of footage looking into their, them, but the Oklahoma team was so relaxed all weekend, and they weren't chirping a lot. You've got some teams that come in and they're yelling it constantly and chirping TCU players left and right. What was it? Texas State? They had their sunglasses on their hats, and so every time the batter would get in their stance, they would do this thing, and this glare would come in on the batter. I don't know if you guys remember that at all. And it was like everybody in the infield was doing this thing where they would do this and all the glare would come into the batter. I mean, you've got teams that come in and do this kitschy crap. Oklahoma didn't do any of that. They just looked relaxed. They were having fun. They obviously Sunday, they don't care at that point because they're like, we've already won the series. We're going to enjoy it. But man, TCU looked tight, compared to that. It was not a positive feeling. Looking at these guys, even in the batter's box, not a lot of people were talking to them. I think they kind of let them do their thing. There wasn't a lot of back and forth with the guys, when they're on deck, but they did seem tight. They seemed very tight.
MK, since you were there all 3 games, boots on the ground, how did the body language look from the team on the field? Because I can tell you what it looked like on TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, I mean, I wasn't looking at in the outfield, for example. But when you're losing to a team that you should beat, right? You're a more talented team. You have an expectation of winning.
Are we?
Well, that's, I guess, the preseason expectation and what we thought was a more talented team. Okay, so to be determined, right? Maybe Oklahoma is going to continue leading the conference. We'll see. But they were defeated. They looked really defeated. And when your offense, it's like, that's another thing. I don't know if we want to jump into big big picture stuff for the weekend, but
Yeah, we're there.
it wasn't one thing that failed them this weekend. You know, they struggled with starting pitching. Their bullpen did not. Again, we'll talk about each of these individually, just in general, big picture. The bullpen did not perform. The hitting was there for what, 1 or 2 innings a game, and that's it.
They say one or two
felt
innings
like,
the entire weekend.
I didn't look at this specifically, but I think they had like 9 hits on Sunday, and it almost felt, I was like, did we have 1 hit an inning? Because they never strung anything together, you know, like they never put stuff together to actually have a run of some sort. Going back to your question, Ray, I wasn't really paying attention outside of the guys that were in the, on deck. I wasn't looking in the field, but when I looked over at that Oklahoma team, I was just like, man, I want to be a fan of that team right now. You know, they were laughing, they were having fun, they were joking around. And it's like, God, it was not fun.
No, it looked bad on TV, especially Saturday. I think Saturday is when it looked its worst. And maybe because it was a night game. It was late.
I was going to ask that. Do you guys think having the start pushed back was detrimental to us in any way, or no?
Nope. Because Oklahoma's got to go and deal with the same thing. If anything, you should say, well, it helps us more. We're not staying in a hotel. We're in our nice, comfy apartments, houses, dorm rooms, whatever.
I wore my boots again because I wanted to get loud with the fans, No, seriously. Like, I know we joke about that, but we wear boots on Friday night so we can stomp on those bleachers, and I did that on Saturday because I'm like, hey, let's get loud. Let's have some fun. It's raining, but who cares? And anyway, when I'm wearing, boots, I also want to look good on top.
Dang right.
And that's why I'm gonna turn over to Hell's Half Acre SG/Lupton Drinking Club.com to find your Q-zips, your polos. I got a hat on, all 3 nights, just like the one I've got. We appreciate you, Hell's Half Acre. Thanks for sponsoring the podcast. Nothing looks better than that gear. So go check it out. And part of that purchase, if you do that /Lupton Drinking Club, will come back to us.
Needed those Q-zips for this weekend, especially Friday and Saturday. It looked kind of cold out there.
It was chilly. You're right. It was chilly. Okay. We can talk about, I have a long list. We can do the positives. That's not a long list. We can do general concerns or negatives. Where do you want to start, Ray?
Let's do general concerns, negatives first, end with the good.
Okay. Pitching or offense?
Let's start with the offense. Let's rip that Band-Aid off because I think the offense was disgusting.
Who wants to talk about our leadoff hitter?
Martin, I nominate you.
No, you go ahead. You're the one that's been tweeting 0 for 23 all weekend.
I never tweeted that. But if you join Lupton Drinking Club's Discord, you might have seen that a time or two.
So
yeah, not great when your leadoff hitter is in an 0 for 22 slump. Not
had a couple hits on Sunday.
Okay.
Bumped his batting average to 243, which unfortunately, like we're talking about, is the lowest of all the players with meaningful at bats.
I think Tolley is hitting 237 or something like that.
Meaningful at bats.
He's never in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly.
Chatinier, I've never seen somebody go from dude was an amazing player out of conference, and then we start going in conference and he's just like an automatic out, and he can't turn double plays, and it's really killing us. And I've never seen somebody go from that to that so fast.
Yeah, it's like a light switch. Usually you say a light switch went on for a player and they start to click. This light switch got shut off.
He does lead the team in walks with 19, so that's pretty cool. His on-base percentage is 404, which, I don't know, not the worst, but it did seem before Sunday. I mean, he had a double and a single. Before Sunday, we were at a dark stage. I mean, it had been a long time since he had a good hit, and it's tough because he started off with a bunch of home runs, with the year.
Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to hit everything for a home run or what? But I mean, he's like popping up everything, not really having competitive at bats. It's really strange. I mean, he was pretty much carrying the team or something like that, I guess. But just to have that at the top of your lineup, start every game with an out, pretty much automatically. I mean, it's kind of hard to score runs, and he kind of proved it in the last 2 weeks.
16 strikeouts thus far. That's just not going to get it done, man.
Anecdotally, have you guys noticed them pitching him differently because he was swinging at first pitch fastballs? To start the year, he was hitting home runs off that, right? Or I say home runs, 3 home runs, but it felt like he was swinging early, trying to get ahead or trying to jump ahead and smack something early. Do you think they've changed that based on their scouting?
I don't know if they're pitching him differently, but I think for the most part, guys want to start the game with strike one, right? So I think he was taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're starting him off with a breaking ball more, or if they're not throwing him a strike, but it's rough.
I think it could be one of those things too. And I don't know. I wasn't a baseball player. I realized that in high school, not good enough. So I don't know. But whenever you're in a slump like that, it weighs on you, right? And you start trying to do more, right? Than just getting back to the basics, the simplicity of hitting, and you're pressing. It goes back to pressing.
It's tough because you start thinking more about your swing and the specific things that you need to work on, right? Instead of kind of relieving the thoughts from your mind and just going out there loose. It's the weirdest thing as a batter. When you're struggling, you're like, okay, I'll work on this with my legs, or hands in this hands this direction, hands toward the ball, and then instead of going up there and just letting it loose.
Then it's got to be kind of compounds it, or it makes it worse too. When there is a very good chunk of that lineup that is also struggling.
Yeah.
You look at the back half of the lineup and their struggles, and so you pretty much go from 6 through 1 in the order, and you're not getting anything really.
Yeah, I can see that. Maybe he kind of just has the mindset where he's thinking he has to try and force a result, right? And not necessarily taking what's presented to him.
So 4 batters are hitting over 300 for the team this year. We're obviously not going to start Anthony Silva in the leadoff, but if you had a choice between the other 3, Logan Maxwell, Chase Brunson, or Sam Myers, who would be your leadoff hitter?
Logan Maxwell.
Got to be Logan right now, I would say, the way he's been playing.
Yeah, I had Logan Maxwell leading off, to start the season, and he's been amazing.
Dude, easily their best hitter. Easily. And
it's different from somebody like Brunson, who's usually hitting like 8, 9, 7. Those lower spots, I guess, get more fastballs, or that's what we hear. And Logan's been hitting 2, 3, 4. He's been in the more, I guess,
power producing.
The more key spots in the lineup. So I don't see why he'd have any trouble moving into that leadoff spot.
So Bella asks in the comments, she says, what is your dream order right now for TCU baseball?
Go for it.
Okay, I'm glad you asked, because I actually wrote this down and was thinking
Braden
about it.
Taylor
Matt Carpenter, Luke and Baker. Anyway,
right, so we have Logan Maxwell leading off.
Logan Maxwell leading off. I would like to see Sam Myers hitting second. Curtis Byrne.
So lefty. Is that or no? Sam's
Sam's a
They're
lefty,
both
but
lefty.
I don't care. I'm of the belief, I think that matters more in professional baseball. I don't know. I think you're still getting college pitchers. Hitting third, Curtis Byrne. Ideally for me, fourth in a perfect world, you got to have Peyton Toley there. I know the struggles. That dude's just going to have to hit through it, right? Because you need that bat, that threat in your lineup.
question about Tolley, real quick.
Go for it.
Jack Caglione pitches on Sundays.
Yep.
So that he can bat on Fridays and Saturdays.
Does
Is
he also
there-
bat whenever he pitches at Florida?
think
I
he
don't
actually-
know.
I think he does
He
too.
does.
Yeah. there-
I don't know if he specifically starts on Sunday for that reason, because I think Florida does have good Friday and Saturday guys. But it just, I know what point you're trying to make.
Well, just that if he's sore, right?
Yeah.
On Saturdays or Sundays or whatever, and
Right.
we've seen him do both in the same game. But now, like that's the way the season started. But now it seems like he's doing one or the other, but not both.
Now, Toley's also dinged up. Kirk's talked about he's battling a hamstring, which I guess is what bothered him in his start on Friday
Okay.
in Kansas. And so it was a little hold your breath moment a couple times this weekend with Toley. One at bat where he's trying to beat out a ground ball to first and he stumbles over the bag, goes
Dude,
down hard.
that was a Saturday night because Martin and I were like talking about it. and we're like,
Saturday,
"Man."
yeah.
I mean, Martin was like, "Man, that was weird." And I was like, "Dude, that looked like me. I'm 41 years old trying to run, and I trip on something. And when you're like old and you fall, it's really awkward, guys. Like it sucks, you know." And I'm like, Peyton Toley is not an old guy, but he's so big and lumbering. It was like, oh, because it looked like he injured something again.
And so I don't know if y'all caught this, but on his start on Friday, too, the first inning, heading into the dugout, pumped up, big strikeout, takes an awkward step on the top step going into the dugout and falls down the steps. Takes a little tumble there.
He's too tall. He's too big. Big tree trunk. All right.
So, going
you,
on.
you had Toley at 4, and that's
Toley
in an
at 4.
ideal world because that means he's hitting.
In Ray's ideal world, even if you're just going to have to work through it. Okay, you need that threat. You need that threat. Fifth, I have Ryder Robinson.
Interesting.
6, I have Chatinier. And after this weekend, actually, I'm going to pause. I did this on Saturday. I had this written out. Totally, I'm going to go Silva, Bowen. So Silva 5th, Bowen 6th, Robinson 7th, Shat 8th, Brunson 9th to round out the lineup. And you can flip Brunson or Shat. I think they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, where did Carson end up last year? I thought he was in 3, or was he 5?
Second.
I think he was hitting 2-hole, right?
Yeah.
Was he
In Omaha?
Yeah. I think he had
And
Taylor hitting 3rd, Eli leading off.
I don't think this team like necessarily runs through Silva, but when he's hitting well, like when he's smoking the ball,
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of our most powerful hitters in terms of, biggest potential to get a double,
Yeah, and I felt like on Saturday during that comeback, I felt like we kind of saw Silva trying to take the reins as far as we got a question about clear player leader influence here. And do you remember that inning where he stole second, then he stole third?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like he was trying to force the action, trying to make something happen, like what Ray was saying about Oklahoma doing the same thing to us. And then on Sunday he starts off the game with a single to right, and then he stretches it into a double. And I think Silva right now, I think he's trying to will this team to win and lead by example, because he's not really he's not a rah guy. He's not the most he's not Chatinier in the dugout. Waving the
Boisterous.
pom-poms, but yeah. So he's
It's kind of like Taylor.
I think right now Silva is trying to become that player.
It's a good comp in terms of his leadership style, Ray. Is there another player or maybe two players that maybe they don't even start or they don't play a ton, but they're really the guys who kind of amp it up from a vocal perspective?
Braden Sloan is the first one that comes to mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be, like a position player.
Yeah.
But
Are
I think that Sloan
the
is
starters,
like
if they're locked into starting that weekend, do they get to spend those 2 days in the
they're in the
dugout?
dugout. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Talked about the lineups. Thanks for sharing that, Ray. At this point, there hasn't been as many changes as I would have expected, right? We talked about with Kirk. He said, "Hey, these players write the lineup," and you've got some guys moving around a little bit. Maybe Carson and Silver a little bit lower than expected, or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, for struggles like this, we haven't seen a lot of significant changes.
Do you think those are coming this week?
That's a good question, man. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if Shat's still leading off this week, to be honest. Maybe that's just me. I just don't know if they're going to go away from that yet. But
Because like last year, right, when they were struggling, or Eli was going through a slump, they took Eli out of leadoff hitter and moved him down to the bottom of the order, and we had
they did
Warriors up there, and that's when Luke was scorching hot.
They did, and maybe that's what they do. Maybe that is an opportunity to put someone who's hot right now into that role. But I wouldn't shock me if they gave Shat a little bit of a longer leash, and we see him leading off tomorrow. But
well, I hate to break the news to y'all. That leash is not long. You can't have a long leash at this point because you are 1-5 in conference.
yeah,
You're staring a trip this weekend, upcoming weekend. You go to Stillwater. It's almost.
I mean, if there's a time to make a
I want to
change,
say a must win, but god dang, you need to put some wins on the board.
Hey, would it surprise you if they didn't change a thing because they were like, "Hey, back to the routine. Just keep the
exactly.
routine. We'll
That
stay
would
the."
surprise me.
That's what I was saying. That's when you were talking about Tully being in your dream lineup, and you're saying, "Well, we just have to see it. He just has to produce in that position." Could a devil's advocate say the same about Peyton and leaving him in the leadoff spot and letting him work through it a little longer?
No, because he's the reason I have, in that scenario or whatever. It's just a lineup I'd like to see right now.
And it's the power, I suppose, right?
It's the power because you don't have
You need the power
that big,
in that hole.
that quote unquote big bat. Someone
Right.
that you can change a game in the one swing of the bat. Curtis to an extent has that, but no one else really on this team in that lineup has that power capability where they can just change the game in a flick of the wrist.
I don't want to call him out specifically for failing to do this, but doesn't that suck that it's not Peyton Tully this year already? Because we were expecting him to be. I mean, I think we elevated our expectations of what he was going to do this year.
I think Perk was dead on last week whenever he said it looks like Peyton's going through something, which, it's a hamstring. I don't know if there was something else before that, but it looks like, it just looks like he's been gutting it out.
Yeah. I mean, and we may not know that until the end of the damn season. It's like,
it's like hockey season, right? I don't know how much y'all pay attention to hockey, but as soon as the season ends in hockey, then you get this long list of what guys
all
were
their injuries.
what they are actually battling through, because hockey's probably the most vague of, it's either upper body, lower body.
During a downer episode, I do appreciate Jackson Day chiming in. He said, "I still believe he's getting 30 homers." So thanks, Jackson.
Martin, do you believe the same thing?
Yeah, I don't change my predictions week to week like some guys on this podcast.
Oh, that's a
Okay.
shot right at me.
So we've changed. We talked about the offense, which has left us wanting. Let's talk about the starters. We've got Peyton Tolley on Friday, Klecker Saturday, and then lately, Braden Sloan took over for Zach Morris after his injury. I don't know if we want to talk about any individual specifically, or if we want to talk about what we expect the rotation to be on against Oklahoma State, which might change.
You know, I think I texted this in the group chat. I don't know if I expect it, but I would really like it to be this weekend, especially Tolley Friday, Rodriguez Saturday, Klecker on Sunday. I think that is, in my opinion, whatever that's worth, given by my post-game picks, probably not much. My rotation, what I would like to see.
More thoughts on Lewis, who maybe has earned that Saturday or whatever spot, weekend rotation spot.
I think you're starting to see him. They've been stretching him out. He was a little stretched out. He was a little behind because in the fall he came back off that injury, so they were kind of careful with how they've handled him, but they've been slowly amping up his workload and letting him go deeper and deeper. Like I think against DBU, what did he throw? 70-something pitches?
He went almost 4 innings. So
I think he's about to that point where he's ready to slide into the rotation. And maybe, I said Klecker, you could still stick with Sloan, or I saw today they didn't announce a Tuesday starter. Maybe you just completely take Sloan and Klecker out, let them kind of reset, and you slide Hampton into that Sunday spot.
I feel like they did that last week. Like they just didn't announce Ben Hampton starting. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
Caden Parker. You imagine that's who's going to pitch on Tuesday.
Martin, any more thoughts on Lewis?
I mean, I would not. I think Lewis is great. I think putting him in the rotation would be a great move. I mean, we kind of have 4 guys who are fighting for 3 spots. That other guy is going to be a big piece in the weekend as well. I mean, I don't think they're moving one of those guys to the midweek rotation. So, I mean, we got the arms. I'd like to see Tolley move to Sundays for reasons we've already talked about, so he can be in the lineup. What are we talking about next? Are we talking about like in general stuff?
Yeah, it's just big picture stuff.
Okay, I've prepared a statement
about pitching.
Let me go on mute
general
real quick.
About what's that?
In general stuff with the team.
Speaking now is the Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero.
Thank you. So, I think that best start in program history needs to just go out of the window. The reality right now is that those 13 games that we played against, those teams kind of suck. And it looks like TCU kind of just out-talented them. We made so many mistakes. They made so many mistakes, but we had so many guys in the lineup who could produce and just outscore the opponents. As we moved into conference play, we started playing less teams who kind of give away games. Kansas and Oklahoma, they did not give away any games, and we only won 1 because Kansas ran out of pitching. And I don't think Kansas is even that good because I think they lost the series to Cincinnati. Didn't they get no hit on Saturday or something like that? Anyways, if TCU is going to win, they need to cut out the mistakes. TCU cannot be the team waiting for mistakes to score runs and giving runs away themselves. So You can't have outfielders giving away 90 feet for free when they misplay balls. You can't fail to convert a double play when a pitcher executes their pitch and induces a double play ball. If Toley's not going to be in the lineup, the guy who's not catching should be DHing like we had it last year. And we need to have a real first baseman at first base who can pick every ball out of the dirt on a regular basis. And we can't wait and see. We've been so wait and see what happens with this pitcher and end up walking to the mound after they just gave up the hardest hit ball in Lupton history. If the offense is willing to be ultra liberal with their outs and give them away when we're losing, the defense and pitching is going to need to be ultra conservative. Period.
Okay. Timestamp 1:10:36. We need a standing ovation. Ray, when you're producing this podcast.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Guerrero, 2024, El Presidente.
Is Antonio Brown going to be your running mate?
I've got some follow-up questions. Okay. Something you mentioned at the end. First base. When Carson is catching, Burns at first, and vice versa. We've seen maybe one or two games. You brought in Gabe Miranda at the end for a couple innings. Brody Green was there maybe a game. I don't know Brody's status in terms of injury. I don't know if there's an update on that, Ray. Okay.
I don't have one. Doesn't sound like he's healthy, though.
So it could be still injured. But you were saying that when one of them's catching, you want the best first baseman there because right now neither one of them are producing at the plate. Is that correct?
I mean, Burns okay. Bowen is struggling, but I mean, he just hit a home run. He could be all right. But you know who's really not hitting right now is Jack Basier, who is DHing when Toley's not. So if Basier is going to go 1 for 4 or 0 for 4, why not just put whoever's playing first base or whoever's not catching, put him at DH, and then just have Gabe Miranda at first and bat him ninth? I mean, on Sunday, how many times would it have been so clutch to have a left-handed first baseman who could have swiped that tag and got him out? We saw, I don't know if y'all saw, but I saw like 3 times Curtis almost had the tag down.
Yeah, dude, there was so many close, especially on, what was it, Pettis?
Yeah.
When he was taking a super long lead right before they stole another bag.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma was 9 for 9 on the weekend in stolen base attempts.
10 for 10.
10 for 10. 10.
I mean, you have just that inch, or whatever inches, having a left-handed first baseman with that swipe, and he's experienced. He knows how to steal outs, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But which is kind of what we need right now. If we can't be giving away so many outs and giving away so many runs, if we're not going to hit. Now, if you want to take it the opposite direction and you want to hit, and if you think Jack Basier is so good and that's why you're batting him fourth, then put him in the outfield and put Toley in the lineup every game, and we'll go the opposite direction and we'll just smash everybody.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
You don't know how many at-bats Gabe Miranda has this year?
1.
Yeah, he has 1.
In his entire career. That was just...
Okay, this year and all the years.
Yes.
What I meant to say.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised that he only has 1 at bat because he was one of the better hitters in the fall.
Yeah, but that was against TCU pitching.
How indicative is fall success to the spring? Because I mean, we've heard about these guys just dominating in the fall. Both sides. Hey, the pitching's incredible. The batting is amazing.
Well,
championship.
Anytime I see a report going from henceforward, one side of the ball looks amazing, I'm going to believe that the other side is actually amazing. Whether it's like this past fall, our offense was amazing, just hitting lasers everywhere. Our pitching must be rough. And if the pitchers are looking amazing, they're getting all these guys out. Dude, it's going to be a long year offensively.
Remember when we got glazed up about TCU football last year? How awesome they were going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, different sport. All right. I'm trying to remember your State of the Union there, Martin. A lot of good points in there. I think, obviously, I think that we agree on there's a lot of mistakes. And we talked about that earlier. Mental mistakes, Ray, you said that. We're throwing the ball. Instead of getting the automatic out, we're trying to make a fun, cool play to get the lead runner. Hasn't worked out multiple times. I don't know why this is in my head, but I actually want to talk about a positive. There was a single to center field, and Chase Brunson made a hell of a throw.
Dude, that was a rope.
To home plate to stop the runner from going to third. And almost any other player, they would have scored on that. So I don't know why I was thinking about that not just now, but definitely that was a cool thing. Well, I feel like we saw Chase make that same throw in one of the first couple games. And remember, I don't think Carson could grab the ball and the guy scored, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, for doing snaps for outfielders, Logan Maxwell had a similar great play on Friday. A nice little diving grab. Can't remember rating that was in, but it made me happy.
Yeah, didn't we have a runner trying to stretch a single into a double, and then Luke Boyers threw him out at second base? That was on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That was pretty cool. I thought he was safe, but I think they caught him out anyways. They're like,
the
cool.
one call that went our way.
Yeah, the game was like pretty much over.
Really interesting Big 12 standings. I don't think any of us would have expected any of this garbage. Oklahoma is leading. They are undefeated in conference at 6-0.
Dude, are they gonna be 9-0? They play West Virginia goes to Norman.
Oh yeah, they easily
this week. And West Virginia is fresh off a 26-11 thumping from the Fighting Bill Mosiellos of Ohio State this past Sunday.
Can we talk about their Twitter account actually leaning into that? I said this to y'all on our group chat, but I love when there's one way you can go, which is just not posting the final score or taking off the comments, which is probably worse.
That's worse. But
then you have teams that are so Florida Gulf Coast. Remember this? This was after our series, and they posted the score, but you had to zoom in on it to see it. And then West Virginia, what do they say? Please visit OhioStateBaseball.com or something to see the final score.
Go to Buckeyes.com.
Dude, it's fun. It's fun seeing these teams like lean into the bits.
But like, look, you respect those interns or whoever much more than some guy who's going to try to mute everything. In second behind Oklahoma, we've got Houston at 4-2. Impressive start for them. And then a number of teams that are, I mean, you can't really take much from 500 teams at this point in the middle. At the very bottom are TCU Horned Frogs at 1-5. Okay, so another positive for the week is we are traveling to the second worst team in the league, Oklahoma State at 1-2, who lost 2 games to UCF of all teams, which shocking, honestly.
Did y'all see the clip of, I think it was Friday night, of UCF, Oklahoma State? You know, UCF's up big or whatever, UCF's hitting, and there's a rocket launch going on behind the stadium. And so, out in the distance, you see this rocket going into the night sky. Look, that looks hella cool.
It's pretty exciting. I'm excited with some of our new teams. Maybe not Cincinnati, but some of the other ones.
Yeah, how about Texas Tech? Dude, they lost 2 of 3 down in Waco this weekend.
Okay, you asked a question on Twitter, Ray, and we can ask it now. Is who had a worse weekend? Texas Tech losing 2 of 3 to Baylor, or TCU getting swept at home against Oklahoma?
Obviously, my answer would be obviously it's TCU. You get swept at home. That's awful. But I think it's a lot closer than people like to think, because you think of Baylor as one of the worst programs in the Big 12, and you lose 2 of 3 to them. Doesn't matter if it was in Waco or not. That is not good.
So the one thing that we hope going for us is that Oklahoma ends up actually being a good team. We do not expect Baylor to be a good team, so maybe that's a rough.
Although
that's rough for
freaking Baylor now, after the weekend against Tech, now has more conference wins than TCU does.
Sounds like we had a worse week.
yeah.
I'm not mad,
okay.
Martin. I'm
Can
not
I change?
mad.
Can I change the question?
Yes.
When was TCU down badder? Right now, or 23-20 after a sweep at West Virginia?
Oh, nah, West Virginia, dog. It was.
Yeah, West Virginia.
The vibes are an all-time low.
And that's also, you're almost towards the end of the season there.
Yeah. I was boots on the ground. The vibes was bad. It was like, we got to win the Big 12 to make the tournament.
What do you think, MK?
I don't want to have recency bias, right? And I also don't feel that bad right now. So I think it's got to be West Virginia, because I still have hope that we can turn this around. It's so early in the season. It's 2 conference series in. I mean, yeah, it's been pretty bad, been pretty rough.
Yeah.
I also feel confident that something's going to change, whether it's the lineup, whether it's pitching rotation, whether it's a couple guys, becoming leaders on the team. Or I don't know. If not, then you're going to have players lose their job. You might have coaches at the end of the season lose their job if it continues this way. So
I think it's a real simple fix. It's everything right now is between the ears, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
You still believe that this team has talent. You still think the talent is there. Just, I've been watching a lot of Ted Lasso lately. And, they kind of talk about there was a point whenever they're getting promoted back into the EPL, but every pundit is picking them to finish last. And they're real down on themselves because everyone says they're going to finish in last place. And Ted takes them to a sewer to illustrate the point that they need to flush the poop out. That's what this team needs to do, is just flush the poop out. Get it out of your system. Go out there.
Run over to Waste Management for a field trip. Not that far away.
Get the poop out of your head.
One, I guess, silver lining is that there's 2 more Big 12 series this year. So maybe we can pretend these first 2 didn't happen.
Say there's 2 more than last year?
Yes.
I thought there was only 1 more.
No, because last year there was 9 Big 12 teams. And so there was 8 series. And now there are 10 series.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Math with LDC.
I'm not going to count the first 2 series and say we start
conference.
Conference play starts Friday, boys.
Get excited. It's going to be great.
Oklahoma's not even the Big 12 anymore.
Right.
That's an SEC team. Yeah, non-conference. That's Oklahoma. Okay, that's no worse than Texas losing to Washington, right? Same thing.
And that's another silver lining right there is, you hate that you lost a series to mid-12 teams, but I mean, Texas and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, they're all sucking too.
Yep.
Those are supposed to be our hard games. Now they can be our easy games.
Are you saying Oklahoma's going to have the Big 12 wrapped up by the end of March?
Shit, if they keep going like this.
Whatever our preseason rankings were for the Big 12, we need to delete that episode and burn it.
Yeah.
Okay, what notes do you have in your binders, fellas, that you weren't able to get to and we need to close out with?
I will say I'm going to end on a positive note. It seemed like Carson Bowen and Anthony Silva are starting to put together good at-bats and showing signs that they're coming out of their slumps.
Good one. Agreed. Lewis is going to be a weekend rotation guy. That's my happiest takeaway. And tomorrow's Bark at the Park, so lots of
Yeah,
pooches out at the ballpark.
First bark at the park since when, Ray?
Never.
That was that our doing, talking about this on the first couple seasons about Bark in the Park.
So I do know that they've wanted to do it for a while. They just had to get the insurance stuff right and behind the scenes paperwork and everything squared away, cross T's, dot I's. They've wanted to do it for a while.
Will any of y'all's dogs be making an appearance at the ballpark tomorrow?
I mean, there's a lot of rules, not going to lie. You have to sign a waiver. I think there's one specific section where all the dogs are going to be, which if there's like 100 dogs, that could also be chaos, which would be really funny.
It's all here in the outfield.
I'm just saying it's like the far side, you know, if it's one section and they cram everybody in, it'd be kind of funny. You have to pick up after your dog, which I'm not interested in
MK
that.
doesn't advocate for that.
I like to take my dog out and let her off leash, you know, and so it's not really.
You don't want to pack your baggies.
Who's your neighbor? Who's your neighbor? Is it Holiday? Is that your neighbor?
No, Jansen Whitty.
Okay, Jansen Whitty. Do you take your dog over to his yard and let him let loose? And then
No, I don't let her
walk
leave.
back?
I don't let her loose in my street. I'm saying I take her to the park or down by the river and let her go. She was chasing goose today. They were honking at her. It was hilarious.
That's a time.
Martin, I need a silver lining from you, sir.
Damn, I only had a negative. So the reason why it feels so bad is because we had different expectations, right? We're coming off of Omaha. We finished in the Final Four. We had one of the better transfer classes. Like things were looking good. We had, I don't know about all of you guys, but I had TCU winning a national championship. So yes, there are similarities to last year as far as the slow starts or the going cold after a hot start, but we were in a great position to be that big team outside of the SEC because D1 and all those national guys are going to glaze over every SEC team who has a winning record. And TCU was like that team outside of the SEC. TCU and Oregon State, right? TCU was in a perfect position to, grab a national seed host. And now, after 2 weeks, we have to scratch and claw our way back and get past 14 teams in the SEC in front of us in the rankings.
Yeah, man, it's going to be tough to get that national seed now. It's going to be really tough. You're going to have to sweep series now that you weren't expecting to sweep.
Not a huge silver lining, but D1, for all the jokes that we make about it, I mentioned this today about them not respecting the Frogs. They clearly do respect the Frogs because for some reason we only dropped 3 spots. I was fully expecting I don't know if out of the rankings, I think that would have been kind of a rough decision. Like after 2 series, I think that would have been pretty erratic, but I could have easily seen 23, 24 just to throw us in there. And so they clearly see the Frogs as a good team. And I think we do too with a bad start. We talked about Tolley. That's probably the biggest positive, I think, for the week. He went 6 innings. And I'm hoping that he can go 7, at the next one. Like if he can actually be a legitimate Friday night or whatever night starter and get us through most of the game, I think that's huge for TCU. So, man, we beat DBU and then everything went off the rails. And I'm just hoping that I don't know, Stillwater is going to be a turning point for us after Bark in the Park. Is anyone traveling north?
To Stillwater?
Yeah.
Martin, you going up there?
No.
Undecided, but we'll see.
All right.
Nobody else?
I got a birthday, man.
No,
Mini Horse is turning 1 this weekend.
There you go.
Hey, I will say for Bark tomorrow.
What'd you say, Ray?
Do y'all kind of think for Bark in the Park tomorrow?
Yeah.
I kind of feel that frustration is going to be taken out on UTA. Hopefully, that they're really going to take it to them.
I feel like it could, but then like, what is that? Again, that was the question I asked after DBU. What do we learn from that? You know, like, I don't know. I mean,
That's exactly right. We go out there.
I-
If we went out there and kill them, it still wouldn't add any confidence. for
would
us.
I mind scoring
So,
20
like,
runs? No. It's not going to teach us anything about this team. So
Well,
If we
it
put
might
up
not
20
teach you
runs,
anything.
if we put up 20 runs against UTA, I'll go to a game in Stillwater
hell yeah. Let's
All
go
right,
Frogs.
book it.
All
at
right. And
at TCU baseball.
that's the biggest silver lining of the night. We need the Frogs to score 20. That is our betting line, folks. And we are grateful for Bella Fox, for Jackson Day, for let's see,
Cam.
Baxton, Cam, all those guys who joined in. Travis, we appreciate you joining the live chat. I'm sure there were more that were listening or watching anonymously. We appreciate you too. We'll be back next weekend after the Frogs play UTA. They're hosting. This is a home game on Tuesday night, Bark in the Park, and then they'll be at Oklahoma State Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are excited to get back on track, as Matt Foley would say. So we'll see you soon. We'll see you on the socials, and go Frogs.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs, baby. Oh man, Martin, I forgot to tell you, dude, this is so great. Oh, you're gonna love this.